Hi, in this video we're going to run a training session for scanning components and sub-assemblies in Tascus. So the goal will be to build a component part or a sub-assembly within Tascus, and then we'll consume that in a top-level part number in the master build process. We'll try and do some checks within there and build a full product report that contains results of everything that we've built. So the structure of how we're going to create the part numbers and the sequence design is going to be like this. We're going to have a top level part number. In this example I've called it top 001, and that's going to have three operations as part of its build: a kitting, an assembly and a test. And then our sub-assembly, which we're going to give a part number of sub 001, that's just going to have one production operation linked to its sub-assembly. And then what we're going to do is, in the top 001 sequence, we're going to insert a scan part step as part of the assembly process. And within that, we're going to get the operator to import and link the sub 001 part number into this build structure. So I hope that makes sense. That's the aim and the structure of how we're going to do that. We'll go through some examples next of how to actually implement that in Tascus. So first off, we want to create the part number for the sub-assembly. So in this example, I've just gone to the parts list, added a new part for sub 001. So I'm just going to switch to Tascus. So we go to the sequence editor, parts list. We could click add, but in this case I've already created it, so it's just sub 001. At this stage it's optional if we want to add an expiry date or a best before date to the sub-assembly. So for example, say it's a batch of something that will expire, we can add to the part number a custom field. So let's just go through how to do that if that's necessary. So on the edit, while you're still on the edit part tab, go to custom fields, add, and I've picked best before date. That value of 10, that is number of days. The value here is an integer, and that's number of days. So let's set that, press OK, and we've configured the part number. Okay. Next, for sub 001 part number, all we wanted was a single operation of sub-assembly. So let's go to the parts lookup screen and configure that now. So parts lookup, let's bring it down to sub 001. I've already added this, but it means going to the operation name that you want, the sequence that you want, adding it. And that means now that with sub 001, I've got an operation. If we just have a look at the sequence for that, so for me, my sub-assembly sequence is actually just a really simple one-step pass-fail test. Is it okay? That's unrealistic, and you'll obviously have something more detailed, but it just gives you for this test, it gives us a sequence that will have a check in there. Okay, so we've created the routing for the sub 001 sub-assembly, and it's got a sequence linked to that. So we can potentially run some part numbers now for the sub 001 sub-assembly part number. Now let's shift to the top level product. So for this we'll call it top 001, and we've got three operations: kitting, assembly and test. So again, I'm presuming that you've already created some template sequences that we can use. I've got a kitting, assembly, and I've got a leak test. So let's just switch to the parts lookup tab again. Scroll down to top. This will be empty for you, but you can add in a few operations. I've added in kitting, assembly and test. and I created again some simple sequences. The kitting and the test aren't really important. It's the assembly sequence that we're going to work on in the next few steps. But let's create that routing, and then you're ready to move on. Okay, so it's within we said before that it's within the assembly step of the top 001 build that we're going to put in the scan part step to link in the subassembly. So let's switch to that. So we're going to add in a scan part step with a barcode to match of sub 001 and a quantity to scan of 1. For now, we're going to ignore these other options. So let's just take a look what that looks like in my sequence editor. For me, it was called test assembly. Okay, so I've just got 3 steps: a work instruction, a scan part, and a pass-fail test. And the scan part is the important thing in this training exercise. So I know the part number of the subassembly is sub 001. So that needs to go in the barcode to match. That means if a sub 002 or some other part number is scanned, it will fail this step. So that barcode to match is going to ensure that the correct subassembly part number is used. And I can set the quantity scan to multiples, but just to keep it simple for now, I'm going to set that to 1. So make sure that step is in your sequence, updated and saved. And we've done the first stage of the training now. So we're going to run a trial. So first off, let's run some sub 001s. So we've got some in the system. So we've simulated building some sub-assemblies. Then we're going to run the top 001 part number, get to the point where we scan a sequence and see what happens. Okay, there's something down here to do with settings. We'll also take a look at that in the video as well. One thing to say at this point, if you use preloaded serial numbers, what you can do, and we can share this file with you, is do an import of the subassembly serial numbers for this. So I've already got those already loaded in, but the serial number import for this has, you can either do this yourself or we can share this CSV file with you. It's got the part numbers, serial numbers for the sub 001 and the top 001 part number. So you can quickly and easily load them from the drop down lists. Okay, so let's pick a sub serial number. I'll go for number 14. Let's run that. All this sequence does is it's got a part OK, pass fail test. That's it. Okay, so I know I've got a sub 00114. That's good to go now. Let's run a top 001 part number. My kitting operation for it is just a work instruction and an OK. Assembly for it is where I'll get to the scan part sequence. Okay, so because one of the other settings was to populate a drop-down list, so I've got with the part numbers that it finds, so it's doing that, and it's found 4 part numbers for sub 001, 11 through to 14. For now, I'm going to pick 11. And because that's the first one, I'm going to go for that. And for me, that worked okay. One thing to note, sometimes that doesn't work and you get a fail, and it's for whatever reason. The format of the of the part number and the serial number in that box is important. So to use it in this example, I have to have a barcode separator as a colon. The part number position needs to be 1 and the serial number position needs to be 2. That means it's part number, colon, serial number, and Tascus is using that format to try and extract the part number and the serial number from what you enter into that scan part step. Let's go and have a look at the product report for that now. So top, let's just finish it off first. So that was top 005. And again, this part of the sequence doesn't really matter, but it's just to show you what it looks like. So top 5. Okay, so I have kitting, assembly, and test, and it's brought in that I've used sub 111 for that. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So this time we get, in the report, we get a scan sub result, and we've got the barcode number of the product that we imported. All it did was check that the correct part number was used. This time let's import the results for sub 001. So we're going to change some settings in the scan part set. We're going to change it to query database for a past operation. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we bring up our sequence, scan part. Let's change it to query database for past operations. And let's run a top level part number again. Let's get to the assembly stage. Okay, so we've got some options there that's preloaded. Let's just say we went for sub 15 and entered that. It would say operation not completed. We've picked the right part number, but Tascus can't find a past operation for number 15. So let's go back and choose 11 again. And it's okay, it's happy with that. Just finish off my sequence for this, so I've got this one completed again. Okay. Number 6. So this time we've got the sub-assembly results imported in as well. Because it's done that database lookup, it brings in the results for the top level and for the sub-assembly into your report. And it's checking, so it brings in the results for the sub-assembly, and it also checks, and it will only let you continue if you've got a past serial number for your sub-assembly. Okay, let's change another setting. So last couple of times I've been reusing the same sub-assembly, so that's probably not a great idea. So this time we're going to change something in the sequence, and we're going to get it to check for a unique part. And what will that will mean if we go back to the scan part, check for unique part. In this instance, let's go for permitted number of users equal 1. You can set that to a different number, but for simplicity here, let's just keep it at 1. Okay, so if I try to use 11 again now, it will say you can't now do it because you've already used it 3 times. The maximum number of uses is 1. It's stopping me using that part number multiple times, that subassembly multiple times. Let's see what else. I can't use 12. I can't use 13. So I'll go ahead and use 14. That hasn't been used before, so it lets me continue. Okay. So no other differences to look at in the report in this case. It's just that changing that setting will reduce the number of times that I'm permitted to use that subassembly. So that's what these settings mean. Final one is to do with the expiry date. So we're going to tick the box that says check expiry date this time. And what it will do is when you come to pick that part number, it will check when that was created or when the production started from that, and if that was basically in the number of days. So in the setting, I set it to 5 days in the configuration, so it'll basically check, are you within 5 days of starting that subassembly. So let's try that now. I'll have to build another subassembly because I'm out of OK parts. I'll OK that. This isn't going to be the kind of the clearest example because it's going to pass because I've just created it right now. I didn't create it more than 5 days ago. But it will show the principle of it. So I've now got 11 through to 15 showed there. Just one thing to mention on this drop down list, these will expire from the drop down list within a couple of days. If they've been used within a couple of days, the list won't just keep on populating forever. So let's just try again. 14, I can't use that because I've still got the setting of only being allowed to use it once. 15, it let me use it because it hasn't been used before and because it was within 5 days of when it started. If it was outside 5 days, I would get an error message coming up there saying it's past its expiry date and you can't use it. So that's it really. Those are all of the options that we've got for using subassemblies and how to create them, how to get the reports to look slightly different, and how to link them in to a top level part number. Okay, thanks a lot for listening. Drop us a line if you've got any questions on that. Thanks, bye.